from Seoul, Korea, and welcome to the StarLeague Season 2 with Tasteless or Toast. Here, how you doing, man?
I'm doing very well, Tasteless, and do you want to know why?
Why?
Well, I beat level 23 on Candy Crush, but that can wait for another time. It's because we have so many Protosses playing today.
Yeah, we do,
They're
finally.
basically like my Protoss All-Star team.
This is the day for you and me to have to rewatch these games after we're done casting them, because we got so many Protoss players today. We're both Protoss players, so...
Yeah. PvP, PvT.
This is the day that we steal a lot of builds.
Yeah. I'm actually just unbelievably stoked. I wish we could just start game number 1.
I know, right?
You know, PvP has definitely been evolving a lot recently, and I want to see what
really weird.
The greatest players in the world are doing in it. And PvT, of course, you know, it's a little bit evolved. It doesn't change as quickly as the other matchups, but we don't get to see a lot of it at high levels, and we're going to see a lot of it today.
PvP for me is the most interesting mirror matchup right now. TVT was until I realized it's heavily
it's so Hellbat drops, and ZVZ is pretty predictable right now. PvP, though, there's like a lot of different options, a lot of different ways that you can play it.
It's still a really tight matchup, so it's going to be a lot of fun to cast these games.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's how I'm doing. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm really excited also, as you are, to get all these Protoss games out here, because we have not had a lot of Protoss presence and a lot of Protoss success, really, in this tournament so far.
You know, as the races have lined up so far, we might have an extremely balanced round of 16. You know,
it's from the way today is looking, unless there's a bunch of Protoss losses today. Even then, you know, there will be at least a Protoss that will advance, but still. It's looking to be pretty balanced.
And realistically, there's probably going to be 2 or 3. So it looks like I think we're probably going to end up with like 5-5-6 as far as the race balance goes.
And that'd be pretty nice, because if you guys remember in Wings of Liberty, that was really, by the end of that, the season of Zerg. Zerg was doing so well. And, of course, you know, Terran's early on in Wings of Liberty doing very well as well. So it's interesting when we finally get a tournament where it's going to be a little bit more balanced out here.
Yeah. So I'm just excited to get into these games, Tasteless. But first, let's go ahead and look at the match results from last Tuesday in our Group E. A very hard group to predict. Life and Jongbi fell out. Fantasy and KongHo made it through.
Yeah, they were great games. Definitely check them out. First playing very well. I really like that strat with the Phoenixes into the Warp Prism.
Yeah.
Really nice stuff. But great games overall. And, of course, we're going into the final groups here today. And after that, we're going to be going on into the round of 16.
Yeah, and in the round of 16, we do pick back up with that best-of-3 format that everyone loves so much. So that's really nice to see that return as well, especially when we have such a ridiculously elite lineup of players.
Interestingly enough, by the way, yesterday, Jongbi not advancing, despite being one of the greatest Protoss players of all time in Starcraft 1.
All right, well, here are the players by race so far, guys. You can see Protoss only has 2 with Trap in first, but with the amount of Protosses playing today, well, we're getting at least 1 more today. But I think there's a good chance that we could get 3 Protosses today coming out.
Yeah, I got to agree with that.
And as far as Terran goes, you can't get much better than this. Flash, Innovation, and Fantasy. And then, of course, we have Maru, the young up-and-comer, still up-and-comer after years, but still very young. And then Byung, who, you know, he's kind of the wild card there. And as far as Zerg goes, Sulky, Su, Symbol, KongHo, Hiva, all very powerful heavyweight Zergs.
Yeah. And I just want to echo what you said, Artosis. There's a high chance that this race distribution will probably balance out based on the number of Protosses we have today and the kind of Protosses we have today. We've got some very scary players. So, I got high hopes.
Me too.
By the way, this today, at least in this round, the round of 32, it is a best of 1. So keep that in mind. I'm sure most of you are probably used to us casting the GSL Kodas, where we do best of 3s even in the group phases early on. But here we're piggybacked on the on-GameNet broadcast for the Season 2 StarLeague. So it's going to be best of 1. So very unforgiving circumstances for these guys going into this.
That's very true. You know, things are a little bit different. Next season's going back to GSL Kodas, but this season, you know, if you're in Korea, you can come down to the studio.
We already have some of you guys in the studio now. Welcome.
You guys are all great.
Thanks so much for coming down. We've always got a small show out here in the studio.
It's a nice, intimate setting where Tasteless and I shout at you while you sit in chairs right in front of us.
This is where I tell a joke and then I stare at all you guys and see if there was actually
Who's laughing? You don't have a good sense of humor.
So, if you want to come down to our studio and you're watching at home, Entries free. Again, this is a piggyback broadcast. So the camera production here we have is GOMTV, but as far as the shots we get into inside the On GameNet studio, that's obviously on GameNet, as well as their PCs and everything like that. So you're still welcome to come down, though. So let's go ahead and take a look at today's group, Group G. We're going to be doing 2 groups, by the way, because it is a best of 1, so we can squeeze those in all together. We have Parting, YongHwa, Squirtle, and Supernova.
It's like someone just played around with Starcraft players and made exactly a group of my favorite players.
Yeah, actually, that's
Parting, YongHwa, Squirtle, Supernova. Like, these are literally 4 of my very favorite Staceless, and whoever gets through, I'll be happy.
Because I talk to our toasts all the time when you guys don't see us on camera, so I know this is actually true.
I just completely love these 3 Protosses, and Supernova for a long time has been one of my favorite Terrans.
Supernova's been around for a very long time. He's never... I don't know if I would say we always expected him to be a champion, but he's definitely gotten deep in so many tournaments, especially the Codasses here.
Yeah.
Squirtle, a GSL finalist, Parting, the world champion from last year, and YongHwa, I want to say one of the unluckiest Protosses, despite being one of the best players in the world.
He is one of the most solid and sturdy Protosses. He's won a lot of the qualifiers for other tournaments, but has had just the most hellish time trying to get into the top 32 of Korea. But here he is, Tasteless, and I mean, this guy can go extremely far. He is one of the best.
Absolutely can, yeah. So we got these Protosses. Our first matchup is going to be a Protoss versus Protoss, as you can see here. Parting against YongHwa. Now, I know we all think YongHwa is very good, but I'm going to have to put Parting here as the favorite.
I think you'd be silly not to, Tasteless.
Yeah.
If Parting is most likely the best Protoss in the world. There's only like maybe 2 people that can argue for that, like him and Rain maybe. But yeah, that's it, and it's probably going to Parting. But YongHwa is actually at a similar skill level a lot of the times to these guys. He's much more of a Rain-type player, though, than a Parting. So will he be able to hold on against this masterful Protoss here?
All right, now these are the player stats. These are not driven from mathematics as much as what we really did is we interviewed all the Korean esports journalists and told them to give us a rank between 1 and 100 where they thought they fit, and then we took the average of that here. So you can see where they rank in offense, defense, macro, micro strategy, cheese, and popularity.
This is really accurate, especially the numbers in comparison to each other. Like, he's not known for his defense or his macro. He's known for his offense, his micro. He's actually was originally a micro-based player. Nowadays, he's the full, complete package, but he comes up with some of the best strategies. If he cheeses you, you're going to die. Obviously very popular as well, being that world champion, as you said.
Yeah. So this is going to be really interesting to see what he does. This guy's a bit of a pioneer as far as Protoss goes. He's not somebody that figured, copied what somebody else did and tweaked it and got it better. He's kind of the engineer that comes up with the blueprints for the best builds that we can get for Protoss here.
Yeah. And, he's actually going to be facing off today. A little bit later on, perhaps, not necessarily, but against Squirtle, someone who, when Parting came up, all of his builds originally came from Squirtle. They were both on Startail, but we'll talk more about that later.
All right, so here's YongHwa, and I got to agree with these stats as well. I'm surprised actually he's as popular as he is on these stats, but of course this is the Korean scene, not the international scene.
Well, he has a lot of team kills in GSTL, so that definitely goes into that. But
that's very true.
He's more of a defensive macro-type player, and you can see that in those 2 stats reflected right there. So not too inaccurate. I would give him a little bit higher on strategy, though, I have to say. He's actually come up with
I got to agree with that, actually.
Some of the very best builds. But I guess that was a long time ago. Like, he actually is the guy
that was like 2.5 years ago, so.
Almost. Like, he's the guy who revolutionized how to play against 4-Gate back when 4-Gate was the only build PvP.
Yeah.
So this guy, he does come up with some pretty awesome stuff from time to time.
We'll see. I mean, this is one of his moments to get his big break, but YongHwa has had, I would say, some of the worst luck out of all the StarCraft 2 players that we've had here. He has a really tough time advancing further in a lot of these groups.
He's been amongst the best players for an extremely long time, but he's never done it inside of Korea. He's done very well overseas at times. He's done very well in qualifiers for other tournaments, but top 32 has been a little bit beyond what he can normally get.
Yeah, I think Parting should win this game. I'm fine being wrong, but I just don't know if YongHwa, given the pressure that he's under right now, can compete with somebody like Parting who's had the success that he's already seen.
Yeah, well, Parting, I mean, this is a guy that is just confidence. He always thinks he's going to win, and he's generally right.
He made that group of death and was the first to get out not long ago.
Actually, he was second after Innovation.
Oh, that's right.
No.
Okay, well, he got out anyways. So
yeah, he certainly did.
We're going to get this game started pretty soon here. The map is going to be Belshire Vestige. It's a one-on-one map. PvP does have a lot of one-on-one strats you can do, or two starting location strats you can do.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if there's only two starting locations, you know the other guy's position based off your own.
Yeah.
So you can do a rush.
Yeah, you definitely could do something like proxy gate or cannons. I would skip that, because, especially if I'm YongHwa. I do not want to proxy gate. Parting has the best stalker micro in the whole world. You don't even want to mess with it. And in fact, some of the best micro in the world as far as Protoss goes. So I would dodge a cheese build of that variety.
I got to agree with that. The PvP, it was for a period of time a matchup that you almost couldn't expand off of.
Yeah.
Now it's stabilized a little bit, but there's still a few different builds out there that make anything that you're doing that's too conservative very punishable.
You know, I would say that there's a good chance that we will see a fast expand here from one of these players. Belshire is a good map for it. The Nexus really covers the ramp going up into the main base.
One of the best maps for it.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. So I could definitely see someone doing that. Who, though? I'm not exactly sure. It looks more YongHwa
I would actually
style,
bet, I was going to say I bet more YongHwa, actually.
But the thing is, if I'm parting, I might be thinking about that and saying, you know what, he's not going to expect this. I'm just going to go full macro 2 base.
All right, we are moments away from getting this going on the left. Parting, the world champion from last year from WCS. YongHwa, a player that we all know is very good, but has yet to really see his moment to shine here in StarCraft 2. He did not have it in Wings of Liberty. We're here in the heart of the Swarm, hoping to see if he's going to have that moment here now.
All right, here we go. The map is loading. This is WCS Korea Season 2.
Get ready, get hyped. We're going into this right now here on Belshire Vestige. In the upper left starting location, one of the best Protosses in the entire world. He is
Master SK Telecom T1 Parting.
And his opponent here, the underdog. Let's see if he wins this or even at least gets out of this group. He is
New challenger LGIM YongHwa.
All right, so you know, in PvP early game, the things that you're going to want to look for is when do they scout, how much chrono boost they have, and at what time do they take their second gas.
Yeah.
So we'll be keeping an eye on that. It unfolds pretty quickly, unlike some of these other matchups. You know, you get like a, let's say, a ZVZ or a TVZ, and you might sit there for 6 minutes before really you can say what's happening because the opening is so standard. But here, there's a lot of little tiny things you can do to tweak your build and make it optimal for your strategy.
It's really easy to punish somebody in this matchup early on. I mean, even if they just get a stalker out late, you know, they have 1 or 2 bad force fields, that can just be it. I mean, in ZVZ we often say, you know, if the Baneling just connects, it can end the game. But in this matchup, think of it like there's lots of different ways that a Baneling could connect, but with several different units, you know? There's so many different variables that can go on.
That's right. Well, both players here actually scouted for proxies. It is interesting to note that Parting only scouted within his main base, and that just goes to show how confident he is in his micro. He's decided that even if there's 2 proxy gate zealots in his natural, that he'll be able to hold it.
Yeah.
It would have to be literally just a little bit closer in his main to scare him. So I love seeing little differences like that, whereas YongHwa, not as confident in that, goes into the natural as well.
Yeah, he had to take a peek there. You know, it's those little things like this that can actually begin to build up. If you're somebody who is able, you know, to not scout with that probe and mine, I don't know, 30 more minerals, that's 30 more minerals than your opponent has, and when you got 2 guys that are this good, it makes it a much more neck-and-neck situation. Yep.
Well, we do have a second gate going up for YongHwa. Very, very common indeed. You can do 3 stalker pushes. You can grab a mothership core with that, and you can do 5 stalker pushes.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see exactly what he wants to do. Sometimes you just expand off it, though, because your opponent will normally scout 2 gates, and then they have to play a little bit more defensively.
Yeah. Now, Twilight Council.
Parting's doing the Artosis build, Tasis.
He is.
I actually stole this build from him, like, a month and a half ago.
Now it's yours.
And I've done it every single PvP forever now. Like, so he's going to go up to 3-gate Blink Stalker most likely. He might go for DTs. It's a possibility.
Well, this, with the Mothership Core and everything, this can be very effective.
Yeah.
It's really easy to blink up into their main. Then you have Time Warp, so you can escape from there very easily.
Yeah, and notice how his probe went to the Watchtower. That is to watch a line of sight so that he can fly his Mothership Core down to scout his opponent. Now, he is going to go DTs.
So he's not doing this build.
No, this is a slight variation that we are seeing right now, where he's going into very, very fast DTs. And, the best part about this build definitely is that scouting with the Mothership Core, because he can always see exactly how many DTs he really needs. Does he need Blink? Does he need
Yeah, that's actually very smart. He can get in there, and if he doesn't like what he sees, he just recalls out. And he's fine. If he sees, he's got a Robo Bay, then maybe you're only going to get one DT and park it outside the base, wait for them to leave and run inside.
Oh, and look at that. He actually only scouted a part of the way down and, in fact, has a second probe out in the map and has already made his proxy pylon. Now, what tech is YongHwa going to go for here? And Robo. It is a Robo. This is what YongHwa normally does. If he goes for a fast expansion, he's not the type that'll go Blink or Stargate. He stays safe. He grabs the Robo.
Yeah, he's a very conservative player. Now note, this Dark Shrine is all the way in the back, so even though there is a hallucinated Phoenix coming up here, it's going to scout it just a little bit late. Now, what YongHwa can do if he sees the DTs coming is run up his ramp and actually force field that, block out the DTs.
Yeah.
And he knows.
And, in fact, he should be able to get ahead from this. That was a perfectly timed scout where he's going to have that Observer out before he takes any actual damage. And this just puts his Nexus way, way ahead of Parting. So Parting has to figure out some way to start coming back here.
Now, this is very smart. He force fields even before the DT gets there. He doesn't want to risk anything right now. He knows if he just gets this Observer out here, he should be in good shape.
Yep.
Another force field goes in. He can actually slip through there.
Ooh, he can indeed.
And he does.
If he kills more than about 3 probes, that is going to be actually really bad. Oh, he's going to as well. Losing quite a bit. Doesn't want to lose mining time there, but I think... Yeah, that was definitely
another failed force field actually blocking out his army. So it looks like the DT should be able to get out.
Yeah,
that's
it's
painful. Funny because YongHwa should have been able to hold this and not take any damage, but he just
even when it gets
click
in
on to make the force field right to block the ramp, so the guy just squeezed through.
That is actually pretty painful, I'd have to say. But you know what? His Nexus is so much faster that it almost doesn't matter. But all right, so look at this. He's actually getting Blink right now. And this isn't counter Blink. This is actually just Blink after you have an Observer. And this is actually going to be really good because his opponent is just going to have to go into most likely Immortals from here.
Yeah.
And if Parting is just on Immortals and YongHwa has Blink, he has complete map control.
That's very true. The Immortals are very strong against the Stalkers too, but you also have to keep in mind they're a little clunky. Especially with Blink Stalkers, you can avoid them, even go around them.
We do have a Warp Prism on the way for Parting, becoming more and more popular since that buff, to see a Warp Prism flying around the map, doing some Immortal drops and whatnot. But with Blink out, there's a possibility that he can catch it right away.
That's very true.
And if he catches that and snipes that, the amount he would be ahead it's gigantic.
Well, we'll see if he managed to do that here. So far, supplies are dead even. And it's going to be a little bit of a passive moment here. Can he actually get that?
I don't think he can. I think that's a completely safe spot.
Isn't that funny? It's a weird situation now that the Observer just has to stay there and park over that.
Yep. Well, all right. So, he has to keep his own Observer there if he actually wants the chance to kill it. So that's kind of like equalized in a sort of way.
Okay, so we have a DT drop coming up here now. Let's see how much damage it actually does right on the tip of the base here.
Very cool move.
Now, one thing you got to note for is how quick will YongHwa notice.
How many probes will he actually end up getting?
By the way, it looks like only one here.
This was almost a good thing. He only had 1 probe on that gas. That's actually a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Well, all right. That DT has basically done his damage. A lot of lost mining time. In fact, he had to pull all the probes from the natural as well. And Parting is just showing that
was there a DT at the natural as well? Yeah, it looks like there is. There's actually one going in there right now at YongHwa's natural.
And the funny thing is that YongHwa brought the probes before that DT got there, knowing that Parting is so good, there's no way he would drop that DT and then not do that. Because he knows there's an observer over there. There's no way that YongHwa made 3 probes. So there's a lot of back and forth mind games right now going on. But Parting is definitely winning them.
Yeah, Parting is in control of this game so far. And it looks like the third base here, just slightly behind here from when Parting's base was planted.
Now, it looks like Parting is settling into Archon Immortal Charge Lot, which is a really popular composition right now. It's kind of a funny one. A lot of Immortals, a lot of Archons, and then just a bunch of Charge Lots. You get a lot of supply quickly. It's pretty robust as well.
Yeah. This is definitely a good unit combo to go for here. Again, both players still scouting each other constantly here with the hallucinated Phoenixes. This is great because when you have those sentries, if you're not being attacked, that means you don't need the energy for force fields, so you can go ahead and scout. If you are being attacked, then you already know what they're doing, so you won't need to scout with the hallucinated Phoenixes. So it balances out quite nicely.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting to just look at the differences that we've seen so far this game. Now, YongHwa, an amazing player, but I think he's under a lot of pressure. You know, he missed that force field at the ramp. He lost a lot of probes. He actually had a better start as far as build orders went and scouting. But at this point, Parting is up 13 supply, which is a big deal at this point.
It really is.
All of his upgrades are a little bit ahead. His third base is a little bit ahead, but his natural was so behind. So it's kind of a rough spot.
All right. Actually, he may get out position here. Oh no, the Warp Prism.
Well, at least he sees it and does get to go back. The thing is, this is a lot of damage.
Okay, this drop in the main could be huge, even if this attack over here is not. We're going to see, though, he might be able to get the Nexus and all these probes. And even more here. And he's going to get both the Nexus and he's going to do a lot of damage over here. And beautiful recall. Okay, I actually think YongHwa can't actually recover from this.
He's not going to win this. You're right.
He's actually dead.
Yeah. Yeah, Parting has actually just shown his prowess. He's shown why he's the world champion. YongHwa has a hard time getting into the top 32.
Yeah,
he actually just dismantled him.
Yeah, well, I mean, to take out the Nexus, and with a perfect recall, by the way, and then to get out while still killing off all these probes at the expansion means he's economically he's so checkmated economically, there's just really not much he can do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can see actually in Parting's play what joining SKT1 has done for him. A team with the best, with Bisu, with of course Rain.
Yeah.
Like, he is so much more refined, and every time we see him play, we see it more and more. But I would say this game especially because PvP is so technical, and everything he's done has been a very technical move. Just really quite astounding play.
And it looks like there's going to be an engagement here in the middle of the map. I think Parting's going to win that one, as well as Parting doing too much damage with his drop. It's
nice move there by YongHwa.
Actually, yeah, it was not bad, actually.
Or by Parting, rather.
Yeah. Now we got another drop over here from YongHwa, actually. This one's going to be doing a lot of damage here.
Yeah,
with the Immortals and the Zealots, actually. Now recalling back into his main here, hoping to do a lot of damage. Is this going to be enough for YongHwa to come back? Right now I'm saying no with his drop over here, but still, we'll see. YongHwa not doing a bad job despite being in a deficit.
Well, I would say you're totally right, Tasis. Parting has everything under control. There was a few nice moves there by YongHwa, but enough to make up for 50 supply? I don't think so.
All right, continuing to move in here. And nice time warp there on the Archons, keeping them stuck in the back. And these Immortals just doing so much damage. It looks like YongHwa might just barely have enough to drive this back here. He's going to have to kite this Archon. Yeah. Another nice time warp there, which slows down the other Archons and the Stalkers. You know, actually, he's going to come back. He's going to come back in here with a Warp Prism. He's going to make a Nexus here to actually make fun of his opponent.
Oh, I thought he was expanding to that high ground location.
He was going to mine those trees.
He can long distance mine the
gases like it's Warcraft 3. Like,
yeah,
GG.
Well, that was extremely one-sided. But actually one-sided in the way that shows how unforgiving a mistake such as missing a single force field can be.
Parting really happy with that win there. You know, I think a lot of that went back to poor execution from YongHwa at the start. He actually should have held and been fine. but he simply didn't place a force field in the right part of the ramp.
And that's a mistake that I think you can only attribute to nerves. Like,
I was going to say the exact same thing. That's not a mistake where...
Do you ever do that on ladder? Like, sometimes I do, but...
I mean, if I'm tired, but I don't get nervous in ladder. I don't think you do either. But of course, a ladder is not a tournament where your career is on the line.
Exactly,
so.
Which I think brings us back to that had to be nerves. Like,
I would think so.
And then he let it... The DT actually killed 6 probes and got away. Like...
Well, and then there was the second poorly placed force field.
Yeah.
Which actually blocked off his army
from
catching the DT coming around. So the DT looped around that and got out. And, I mean, that was just...
I wish all my DT rushes did that well against an observer.
Yeah, no kidding. But, it was one of these games where that was the first mistake that YongHwa made. And then what happened is Parting made a series of very good choices to allow himself to stay ahead.
Yeah, he certainly did. Some really great multi-pronged harassment. YongHwa showed that he has a really, really high understanding of what's going on. His timings were just perfect. He missed force fields, took some damage there, but like when he pulled the probes from the natural before a DT got there, that just really goes to show that, oh, okay, you are completely in touch with what a player of Parting's level is going to do to you.
And, one thing I do want to point out is that the real killing blow back there was when Parting came down and hit that third, recalling out while
that was the killing blow. You're completely right.
He was ahead at that point in time, but the game was pretty much done with from there. It would be up to Parting to make a mistake, not for YongHwa to make a brilliant move to allow him to come back.
And, it's too bad because that's what YongHwa was actually doing. The way his Warp Prism was flying off with 2 Immortals, he was definitely bringing up his army to posture around the third base to draw the army down so that his Immortal drop could walk in, or... conversely of that, he could have done the Immortal drop and then sniped the third Nexus of Parting, but Parting got to that situation first. And it makes sense because he had both Watchtowers and probes and pylons out in the map. So the guy, he had more vision. He knew what was going on.
Here is our next match. It's Squirtle up against Supernova. Now, Squirtle's a guy with really good build orders. He really knows how to engineer a lead in his games. Whereas Supernova, I feel it's more of raw execution and control.
Yeah.
Macro. He's much more of a machine.
He's a very aggressive machine, no question about that. But yeah, I would say you're about right with Squirtle. They have him at strategy 78. I beg to differ. I disagree with that one, Tasteless.
Yeah, I totally disagree.
He
with
actually
that.
is one of the founders
of
how
like
to play.
92 or something,
Yeah, he wins mostly off of strong defensive macro play that he invented. Like, this guy actually was the founder of many things in the Protoss arsenal. I'm not going to try to go through and remember them right this second, but he is like...
Well, let's take one example that I can think of right now, is when he was against 3 Terrans in a group.
Oh, God,
and
that
had
was
this
beautiful.
one build order, it was like Zealot Stalker, but it was...
Double gas.
Double gas, but it was ambiguous enough that he had, I think, 6 different builds.
He had 5 or 6 routes he went off of the exact same opening, and you couldn't scout it different without a scan.
And each game, the Terrans were surprised.
Yeah. He's a brilliant player strategically.
Yeah. No, he's incredible.
Every great player has a superpower. His is strategy. But unfortunately, sometimes his micro falls off. Sometimes his execution falls off. Whereas this man right here, he's always going to execute tastes. He's always going to micro well. He's always going to be pretty aggressive.
He's just very good with his army. He's very good at engaging situations. I wouldn't say he makes a lot of bold moves. In fact, he's fairly, I think, orthodox with the way that he opens up.
Pretty much. Back when he first splashed on the scene, he was using a lot of tank marine timings, but he's kind of gone to a more normal place in Heart of the Swarm. He's just kind of utilizing those medevacs, being his aggressive self. And you can see that reflected in that offense score that they gave him.
Yeah. So, one advantage Supernova has going into this matchup is that he's the only Terran and it's a group full of Protosses. So, it gives you only one matchup that you really have to practice.
That's very true, and the other players definitely have to prepare for him because he's very dangerous, as well as each other, which is pretty hard. Like, these are 3 Protosses that really have 2 distinct styles, I would say. So, especially for YongHwa and Squirtle, they have to prepare for 3 completely different opponents.
Yeah. So that's one edge for Supernova, but these are 3 very strong Protosses. With the exception of YongHwa, I would say that Supernova is behind our other 2 Protosses.
Yeah,
Squirtle
generally.
and Parting?
He's closer to Squirtle than Parting for sure, as Parting is like a god.
Well,
but
Parting is somebody I'll be shocked if he does not get out of this group.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'll be shocked if he doesn't win a huge tournament again very soon. That's kind of what he does. But, all right, what do you think? Squirtle versus Supernova, is it definitely going to go to Squirtle?
I think so, yeah. I think I think he wins pretty much no matter what.
Okay.
Unless Squirtle's strategy is predicted by Supernova, I don't feel like Squirtle's very predictable. What do you think?
I think it's going to come down to which Squirtle comes to play. Sometimes he looks like the best Protoss in the world, and sometimes he just falls apart. His opponent puts on a lot of pressure, and he just kind of dies. But I think it's going to be Squirtle, but wouldn't be too surprised about Supernova.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. We'll see, though, too, by the way. They're both in the game now, so we should be getting this started pretty soon here. By the way, get out there on Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Tell your friends to tune in here at GOMTV.net. This is a piggybacked broadcast here on the OnGameNet production. This
it's
is
fun, just like when you were a kid and you rode your dad.
Exactly. So tell your friends to tune in here. A lot of people don't know that we're covering this here at GOMTV.net. A lot of people think we only do, Code S, or at least we are only doing stuff like Code S here in Korea, but we're also covering this as well. And it looks like it's time to get this match going head-to-head here. Remember, the winner of this goes on to the winner of the previous match to face off against Parting. The loser goes on to face off against YongHwa.
Well, those are both pretty hard, man. But with YongHwa and the nerves that we saw, I feel like whoever loses here is going to have a pretty decent chance against YongHwa unless we see them play particularly badly.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. The map is now loading. It will again be Belshir Vestige. I'm Tasteless. With me is Artosis, and this is the Season 2 Star League, hosted here at GOMTV.net in Seoul, Korea, where the best esports players in the world reside. Duke it out in the best game ever made.